The Xelthar had explored countless star systems, encountering species of all kinds, engineers, philosophers, and diplomats. Never had they met a species that evolved as predators. Until now. At first, humanity seemed unremarkable. A standard Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale, still bound to a single planet, with primitive space travel. But when Xelthar researchers delved deeper, unease spread through their ranks. Humans were different. They weren't prey animals that formed societies out of necessity. They weren't cooperative herbivores evolving toward enlightenment. They were something else entirely. They were hunters. No other intelligent species thrived on conflict like they did. War was not an anomaly in their history, it was the backbone of it. Their past was a brutal symphony of conquest, rebellion, and survival. While other civilizations viewed violence as a disease to be eradicated, humans embraced it, refined it, turned it into an art form. The Xelthar unearthed footage of ancient battles, modern conflicts, and simulations of future warfare. The more they watched, the more unsettled they became. Humans didn't just fight. They adapted. Where most species followed predictable patterns of engagement, humans defied expectations, using deception, sacrifice, and ruthlessness to win. Even their entertainment glorified combat. Fictional wars, competitive sports, virtual battle simulations. Human minds were conditioned for strategy, conflict, and the pursuit of victory. This discovery alone was alarming. But it wasn't until they analyzed human biology that true fear set in. Humans possessed forward-facing eyes, built for tracking movement, calculating distance, and locking onto prey. Their endurance was unmatched. While most species fatigued quickly, humans could chase their targets for days. Their pain tolerance was unnaturally high, their response to injury often one of defiance rather than retreat. And worst of all, they had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armored hides. Yet, instead of being defenseless, they became the most dangerous creatures on their planet. Because when nature denied them weapons, they forged their own. A council meeting was called among the Xelthar's highest scholars and tacticians. There was only one question that needed answering. Should the humans be contacted, studied further, or removed? The debate was fierce. Some saw potential. If humanity could be guided, their ingenuity could benefit the Galactic Union. Others warned against such optimism, citing human history as evidence that their aggressive nature could never be tamed. But the deciding factor came when one researcher posed a simple question: are all humans the same? Surely, within a species of billions, some were more dangerous than others. Some cultures must be more inclined toward peace, while others embraced war. And so, the Xelthar decided to observe humanity in finer detail. They would study its nations, its ideologies, its military doctrines. If humanity was truly a threat, they needed to understand the worst of them. What they found was far beyond their expectations. Because while humans were predators, Americans were something else entirely. The Xelthar expected variations among human cultures, but nothing prepared them for the anomaly that was the United States of America. At first, they assumed it was just another nation, one of many across Earth's surface. But the deeper they looked, the more their analysts struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. America was not like the others. It wasn't just powerful. It was unpredictable, reckless, unrelenting. Its history was a relentless march of defiance. A nation born from rebellion, forged in war, and strengthened by a philosophy that placed freedom above all else, even survival. While other countries followed the ebb and flow of diplomacy, America thrived in chaos, often choosing confrontation over compromise, dominance over appeasement. Its military doctrine was unlike anything the Xelthar had seen. Most civilizations, including Earth's own nations, relied on strategy rooted in calculated efficiency. The United States, however, approached warfare with an entirely different mindset, one that favored overwhelming force, rapid adaptability, and a willingness to break every rule if it meant securing victory. The Xelthar reviewed past conflicts, searching for patterns. What they found was terrifying. Against superior forces, Americans did not retreat. They regrouped, adapted, and attacked harder. When facing an enemy with better technology, they stole, reverse-engineered, and improved it. Their soldiers weren't just trained, they were conditioned for war, drilled into believing that defeat was never an option. And then there was their weaponry. The Xelthar had long dismissed the idea that individual civilians should have access to military-grade firepower. In every other advanced civilization, weapons were tools of the state, carefully regulated. But in America, the concept of armed civilians wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. They watched as ordinary people trained with precision rifles, honed their skills in combat sports, and discussed battle tactics as casually as others discussed the weather. A population prepared for conflict at every level, even those without formal military training. It wasn't just the weapons. It was the mentality. The Xelthar saw a nation where competition was ingrained in every aspect of life, where capitalism thrived on cutthroat innovation, where even entertainment revolved around struggle and domination. Their most celebrated heroes weren't philosophers or politicians, but warriors, both real and fictional. The Xelthar realized, with growing dread, that America didn't just fight wars. It perfected them. Other nations of Earth had their strengths: diplomacy, patience, resilience. But America embodied something different. Something brutal. An entity that saw conflict not as a last resort, but as an opportunity to prove superiority. The conclusion was undeniable. The Xelthar had worried that humanity, as a species, was dangerous. But now they understood the truth. Humans were predators. Americans were apex predators. And the Xelthar had just stepped into their hunting grounds. The Xelthar needed proof. Observing humans from a distance wasn't enough. They had to see for themselves how dangerous humanity truly was. A test was arranged, controlled, precise, with minimal risk. At least, that was the plan. A single strike team was sent to Earth, its mission simple: engage in a low-level skirmish, assess human combat responses, and retreat before detection. Standard containment protocols, used countless times before on developing species. They targeted a remote American military outpost, assuming it would provide a controlled engagement. The goal wasn't conquest, just observation. A brief encounter, enough to gauge human tactics firsthand. The moment they landed, everything fell apart. The Xelthar expected confusion, hesitation, a delay in response. Instead, alarms blared within seconds. Soldiers mobilized instantly. There was no panic, no disorder, just a swift, ruthless counterattack. Within minutes, their stealth advantage was gone. Communications were jammed, escape routes cut off. The Xelthar, despite their superior technology, found themselves on the defensive against an enemy that moved faster, struck harder, and refused to relent. They attempted to adapt, to regroup, to retreat. Americans didn't allow it. The Xelthar learned too late that their mistake wasn't just attacking a military installation. Their mistake was doing it in a country where everyone was a combatant. The first wave of resistance didn't even come from soldiers. It came from civilians. Armed, coordinated, relentless. Hunters who treated war like sport. Veterans who had seen battle before and welcomed another fight. Ordinary citizens who didn't hesitate to engage an unknown enemy. The Xelthar had planned for a measured, controlled engagement. What they got was total war. Their technology was better. Their weapons more advanced. None of it mattered. Because Americans didn't fight with technology alone. They fought with instinct, with creativity, with sheer, unyielding aggression. The Xelthar were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outmatched, not by firepower, but by will. One by one, their forces fell. Their elite soldiers, trained for centuries in controlled warfare, were overwhelmed by an enemy that refused to follow any predictable pattern. They were ambushed, flanked, and outwitted at every turn. It wasn't a battle. It was a hunt. And they were the prey. The survivors barely made it back to their ships, fleeing in humiliation. The mission was a failure. The test had given them an answer, but not the one they wanted. Humanity was dangerous. Americans were unstoppable. The Xelthar fleet retreated in silence. Their forces were shattered, their pride obliterated. The survivors refused to speak of what had happened, but the data told the story for them. Every battle simulation, every theoretical projection had been proven wrong. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were beyond calculation. And Americans, they defied logic itself. The Xelthar High Council convened immediately. Some demanded retaliation, refusing to believe that an inferior species could be responsible for such a humiliating defeat. Others, the wiser ones, understood the truth. Engaging humanity again would be suicide. Their report reached the Galactic Union, sending shockwaves through the highest levels of power. Humanity was no longer a curiosity. It was a variable that had to be addressed. Every species that had once dismissed Earth as primitive now viewed it with caution. Treaties were rewritten. Military strategies were revised. The Xelthar had stumbled upon something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that not only survived through war but thrived in it. Some proposed an alliance. If humans could not be defeated, perhaps they could be guided, incorporated into the larger galactic order. But even that came with its own risks. The Xelthar knew that no force in the universe could truly control humans. The best anyone could hope for was to stay out of their crosshairs. Meanwhile, on Earth, the United States remained oblivious to the full scale of what had transpired. The attack had been classified, dismissed as an unidentified but neutralized threat. The military had already begun reverse engineering what little alien technology was left behind. There was no panic, no fear, just preparation for whatever came next. Because, unlike the Xelthar, Americans didn't need to be told what was out there. They already knew. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day. Humans were predators. But Americans, they were the ultimate predators.